I'm happy that you don't hear it. Okay. Coming to the second talk is the talk is about Claudio Rapezzi. I believe that all of you probably know Claudio Rapezzi. The wonderful job that it has been done in Bologna. He was an associate professor of Bologna University for 20 years, and then he became a full professor of Ferrara University next to Bologna for his last 2 years. And I happened to be present when I was actually chairing a session where he should have delivered the lecture online, and they told me that he had a health problem. So I immediately texted him, and I got an answer by his wife telling that he had had a cardiac arrest, which we could not survive. So it was really, I'm really deeply sorry for what happened, but I want to remember his memory and what he's been doing for cardiology, for students, for doctors, in all his career. He started to be involved and to be interested in congenital heart diseases because Bologna was a very famous center for congenital heart diseases at that time. But he was also a big lover of electrocardiography. And he was a wonderful teacher about that. Then he got involved in cardiomyopathies, and that's how we got in touch and we started to work together. Beyond that, he was also involved in the dyslipidemia and coronary artery disease and heart failure. And lately, he actually worked, and you are all aware of that, an amyloid heart disease, which was really considered a very rare disease in the past and not really well known and not easily diagnosed. He was a charismatic mentor and teacher. He was a great clinician. But he also was a food lover. Actually, he was very fond of osteria. Osteria are our small family restaurants where you find usually very, fine food, actually the food that you can really appreciate, different in every Italian region. And to tell you the truth, I was told that, this beautiful slide, which you're all aware of, on the different phenotype that you get from different genetic variants of TTR, actually was inspired by him, by salami slices that were actually got in this osteria, together with Stefano Perlini. And this is really interesting in that sense. But he also was a great scientist. And just to remind you, the red flag approach, which we all use in our clinical practice. And as I said, he was fond and a very big lover of electrocardiography. And I remember a 3 years investigation of our early ECG collected at the time when I came back from Bill McKenna and Hammersmith, my experience. And then, that was found very important because, we found different types of ECG which could really predict, But he's very famous about amyloid heart disease because, when he came to Thessaloniki in 2011, and both Yorgos and I invited him to give some, light in this unknown disease, he said that it was underdiagnosed, it was challenging, tricky, but above all, it was treatable. And that was one of his aim. I mean, he showed beautiful slides. He showed how we could diagnose through bone scintigraphy, and he created the Perugini score for that. And that then he, published papers, consensus papers where we could diagnose cardiac amyloidosis without doing, biopsies in several parts of the body. And above all, his was the fact that, the treatment of amyloidosis was actually developed, with including tafamidis and other drugs that we are now currently using. But also he was a Conan Doyle big fan. And if you're not aware, he published a paper, a very interesting paper in the British Medical Journal in 2005. And the title of the paper was White Coats and Fingerprints, Diagnostic Reasoning in Medicine and Investigative Methods of Fictional Detectives. And these are the ideas that he got, and he actually thought to doctors and medical students that we have similarities in science, in being a doctor, being a clinician, and being an investigator. You need to have ability in observation, ability in deduction, fair knowledge, ability to reconstruct psychological and social profile and circumstances, and above all, ability to spot inconsistencies. This was his main message for all doctors and cardiologists. And usually used aphorisms that were reported by the Sherlock Holmes books. You see, but you do not observe. And it is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist the facts to suit theorists instead of theorists to suit facts. And these were actually his common lectures, to medical students. He also usually reported the fact that the routine mass of sophisticated diagnostic tools is killing of the science and the art of clinical reasoning. An ideal clinician would present a harmonic fusion of almost all the investigative methods of fictional detectives and avoid slavish adherence to protocols and procedures. And this was one of his main issues that prompted him to publish a very interesting paper, which I would ask you really to find and read. And this was the impossible interviews. Sherlock Holmes interviews David Sackett. How much can we trust the guidelines? And this was one of his most important points. 6 good reasons why we should not follow guidelines. And above all, they deter individual reasoning and suppress the deductive element of diagnostic decision-making in the individual patient. They attenuate scientific curiosity and the motivation for further research by shifting attention from what we don't know to what we know, consolidated evidence. And also the fact that the guidelines, and we shall talk about them tomorrow, they are the product of a lobby of authors, often with strong links with pharmaceutical or biomedical companies. 6 good reasons at the same time why we should use the guidelines. They outline the principle and steps for making diagnosis and therapeutic. They provide, above all, a convenient line of defense in the event of malpractice charges. So that was, really illuminating, enlightening to myself when I read this paper. And as I said, I really advise you to read that. So the end of the impossible interviews is, my God, congratulations, sir. The implementation of deductive reasoning does apply not only to the scene of crimes, but also to the medical field. Indeed, as you stated, an ideal detective and ideal clinician share the same qualities: observation, deduction, and knowledge. Elementary, said Sherlock Holmes. So with this, I will finish my remembering of Claudio Rapezzi, and with great sorrow, I must surely say that we are going to miss him very, very much in the future. But we also have to remember all his lessons that he taught us in the meantime. Thank you very much.
Very elegant overview of the life of Claudio Rapezzi. I don't see any questions. I think, Franco, we will break. We will stop here this wonderful session on cardiomyopathies and developments over the years. Thank you, Franco. Thank you, Gaetano Thiene. Thank you, Bill McKenna. And thank you, Antonis Pantazis, for excellent lectures. And of course, our colleagues, Kostas Sioufis and Mikis Philippatos from Athens. Thank you all. It's a brunch, it's break for lunch, light lunch. And Franco, we'll miss you. I would like to see you here in Thessaloniki as well. next year maybe. But don't come through Munich or Frankfurt. Come through Zurich. That's my advice.
Yeah, or I'll come by boat next time, okay?
Well, maybe not. Ciao.